Hi and welcome back. I'm going to show you how to make the most amazing one-tin wonder. It is a dish prepared by simply chopping up onions, peppers, sweet potatoes, and if you're not a vegetarian, you can add some sausages. I've got really delicious chorizo, the Spanish smoked sausage. We're going to add that to the pan, some whole garlic bulbs, and also cherry tomatoes. All of that just gets drizzled with a bit of olive oil, seasoned with salt and pepper, and in the oven for about 45 minutes. It couldn't be easier, and it is a very delicious dinner. I normally serve this when I have lots of people over or I want to feed a crowd, as it's really easy. The one thing to remember, however, is you can't overcrowd your roasting tins. So I've got 2 here, and we'll divide the mixture in the end between the 2. Let me just remind you how to chop your onions for this. It is chopped in a sauté slice, which means they're still held together by the root. I'm going to remind you now how to do that. You're going to use your claw, just cut off the flower end, and then just trim off the beard, or the hairy bit at the bottom, leaving your root intact. Now, through the root, doing your bridge hold, you're going to cut your onion in half, and then just peel off the outer layers. Make sure you don't peel off too much, but equally don't leave on any layers that look leathery or dry, as once they roast, they won't be very nice to eat. Right, and then once you've peeled them, you're going to still focusing on the root. You're going to then cut them into slices. Now I usually hold it this way up, just so I can see that I'm still going through the root, and make them as thin as possible without compromising the integrity of the slice. And I'm going to do another 3 hopefully in this one. Perfect. Now I'm also going to show you just how to chop your sweet potatoes. Of course you can just chop them in half and do chunks, but there's a really neat way of chopping them which gives you very equal sized bits, even though they don't all look exactly the same. It's called a roll cut. You can do this with carrots, you can do this with parsnips, anything that is a little bit unequal and not completely straight. Now you're going to hold your sweet potato with your claw and then cut on the diagonal. Then you're going to rotate it towards you 180 degrees, and you're going to cut off the bit that you left exposed by doing your first cut. And then you're going to continue rotating towards you, not always 180 degrees, just so much that you have another edge to cut off, mostly at this point 90 degrees. And that way you will have pieces of sweet potato that are roughly all the same size, which is important when you cook something in the oven, especially because they all need the same time to be tender. Right. Our garlic cloves we're going to put in whole. They will soften and become really delicious, sweet and soft and squidgy by the time your dish is done. And all your diners or you have to do is then squeeze them out of their peel and enjoy them with your meal. If you can see a little root, a little shoot showing like here, this is probably better than to cut in half and just double check that there isn't a green shoot in the middle. These are really large garlic cloves. That's quite unusual actually. Although you can buy a kind called elephant garlic, and they are made to have really big cloves. They're grown in that way. Let me just check if I can remove the shoot in this one. Have a look there. So that one has started growing. I'm just going to take out the shoot because that is supposed to be a little bit inedible. And then the rest of our cloves go in. Brilliant. Finally, we're going to just do the sausages. It's very important with smoked meat and sausages to ensure that you buy good quality. Sausages unfortunately have a bad reputation for allowing butchers to put anything in there because you can't really see what's inside. So always check your ingredients, make sure you buy them from a reputable source. The meat should be free range, preferably organic, and there shouldn't be too many preservatives in there. These are actually completely free of additives, so they're just some pork meat, some salt and pepper, and some paprika. Right, and again I'm going to slice on the diagonal, and I'm going to probably get about 3 pieces out of each of those. I'm going to add them to our pan. I'm also doing the roll cut on this one. I'm rolling towards me and then cutting, so I almost am left with triangles. Now you can also use vegetarian or vegan sausages for this. Make sure you find one that has a relatively nice fat content, high fat content, as it will roast alongside the veggies at the same time, and it will need to not be dried out by the end. I've also made this dish with merguez, lamb merguez sausages, and it works really well. Right, we're just going to add our cherry tomatoes that have been washed and then season with salt and pepper. I'm using sea salt flakes, but you can use rock salt that you grind up as well. Some olive oil. And then some pepper. The last thing I'm going to add is just some thyme, fresh thyme. You'll probably remove these at the end of cooking, as the little stems aren't edible, but they do lend a really nice flavor to the dish. Give it all a mix. Now, as you can see, this tin is quite full. You could cook it like this, but what will happen is, rather than roasting, the vegetables will give off a lot of moisture and your dish will steam, which means it will still cook, but it won't lend it a lovely golden color by the end of it. So we do want to divide it. If you're just cooking for yourself or for 2 people, you can obviously use a lot less ingredients and you will only need 1 tin. I do find though that this also makes wonderful leftover lunch the next day, so I normally make more than I plan on having that day. Great, so let's divide it between these 2 and then they can go in the oven. There you go, roughly single layer is what you're after. I'm going to pop those in the oven. That'll need about half an hour to 45 minutes at 180 or 200 degrees Celsius, depending on the heat of your oven. Do give it a stir halfway through so nothing gets stuck to the bottom of the pan, and then you can just leave it in there. Normally when I cook this, I make it a little bit in advance and then leave it in the oven at about 60 degrees Celsius just to keep it warm until everyone's ready to eat. Great, so that's the finished dish after about half an hour, 35 minutes in a hot oven. At this point, I normally stir in some baby leaf spinach or maybe some chopped up cooked greens like chard or kale or cavallonero, just to add that green element and also bulk it up a bit. But it's really delicious served alongside a beautiful big green salad.